Hi and welcome to my channel Inspiring Life Changes. My name's Colette and I'm here to do part 2 of the 2020 reading that I started doing. I actually laid the cards out, as I said in my previous video, part 1 on New Year's Eve, but I didn't get around to starting that read until 2 days later. And then when I did do that read, it took over 2 hours and my phone didn't like it and YouTube didn't like it, so decided to do it in 2 halves instead. So I'm back to starting part 2 with July. I would just like to say that we're really close now to this conjunction, this major conjunction that's happening in January on the 12th, and 2 days before then on the 10th, which is even closer, we have the lunar eclipse, which is taking place in the sign of Capricorn, in the sign of Cancer. The moon is in Cancer, lunar eclipse, full moon, and it's going to be opposing all the other energies in Capricorn at the same time, and the energies in Capricorn are all kind of conjuncting each other as well at that time. I think the only one that's not going to be conjuncting is Jupiter, but Jupiter is going to be conjuncting the South Node as well on the same day. And I think also on the same day, if I'm not mistaken, I think Uranus goes direct as well. So big shifts, big changes are coming, major. As I said in the other video that I did, if you haven't watched it, you could always go and check it out first. That 2020 for me, I don't think is going, well, I personally don't think for everybody it's going to be an easy year, mainly because 2 and 2, 2020 is a number 4, and a 4 represents squares, and squares are very difficult energies in astrology. In the aspects, it's a difficult energy. And we have lots of squares happening in 2020 as well, with some major planets, especially Mars. When Mars enters its own sign of Aries, it's going to start squaring over to Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto. So that's going to have quite a big effect on the world as well. And there are certain dates to look out for, which again I did in the first reading. I did a quick rundown of some of the astrology that's going to be taking place and the 3 major events. So if you haven't seen that video, you might want to go and check that out for that reason as well. I will be putting a link in the description box down below for anybody who wants to check out their own natal chart, so you can go and see what's happening for yourselves, as with regard to where your planets lie natally, and also where the house of Capricorn, the house of Cancer may be for yourselves too. And I think that's probably about everything. I'd just like to say, could you like my video up for me, because it helps get it out into the bigger kind of stage of YouTube. Also tap the bell if you want to receive any future videos and know when I'm putting them out. I will be putting out more individual 2020 readings as well, but I will be using less cards. In this particular reading I've used 3 decks, and each month has 3 cards on it, 1 major card and 2 minor arcana cards. So, like I said, I'm going to start with July, but I will be bringing probably the other months back through as well, because everything is connected, and it all kind of, just because 1 month's gone, it doesn't mean that the energies have ended. So there's always connections. But we start July with this beautiful card of the Sun. The Sun, for me, is all about illumination. It's all about suddenly seeing things clearly. It's about clarity. It's about realizing, after you've kind of feeling that you've been stumbling about in the dark perhaps, that there actually is a light switch, and all you have to do is put that light switch on, and you're no longer bashing into the furniture and kind of metaphorically kind of in the dark. It's about kind of realizing things on a sudden illumination, shall we say. But this is collective, this is globally. So this is kind of like, as we get round to July and everything else that we're going through within the first 6 months, a sudden kind of realization is going to take place within the collective, I feel, of things suddenly kind of, I feel it's about us waking up to some things that have been kept hidden, kept in the dark, things that we don't necessarily want to look at. This is kind of, for me, forcing. It's kind of saying this has got to be looked at. This has got to be taken notice of. You can't ignore this any longer. It is a bit like having a bright spotlight shone on something. And that can also be to do with individual issues as well. But I feel very strongly that this is to do with global world stage issues. Things are going to be suddenly in the spotlight. And the energy that came out with this card is the Page of Swords, also known as the energy of air. Interestingly here, he has his sword pointing down, so he's not looking for arguments, he's not looking for quarrels or trouble, but what he is looking for is answers. He's seeking answers, he's wanting to know more, and that's what this is saying here. He's wanting to know more, he's wanting to know why things are not how he thought they were. Why it's like suddenly realizing that something is very different, and now this Page of Swords is saying, I need to know more, I need to have some truth here, because this is what this sword is about here. It's a sword of truth that he carries. And also we had the Page of Air, a Page of Swords, turn up earlier in February. And for me at the time, I was saying that this was about us not being ready to reveal ourselves, that this was about us kind of finding parts of ourselves that we weren't necessarily aware of before, and kind of realizing our own kind of magnificence, if you like. If it had been up this way, I would have said that it was very much about kind of, you know, awareness and understanding, but that's not here in this card because it's reversed. But here in this card, with this very kind of flamboyant character here, this masculine page who's very kind of theatrical, a very flamboyant. I feel very much that there's a lot of this around in 2020, a lot of theatrics, a lot of kind of really wanting to be seen, wanting to be noticed. This could also have a lot to do with all the truth that's coming out about the different kind of agendas that are out there as well, and maybe also asking, who can we trust, who can we put our trust in, who can we kind of turn to give us the truth, the illumination, the kind of light, looking for that light, because he's gazing right into it. So he is looking to find that light, and also trying to find it from within as well. But there is another aspect to this card as well, which I find very interesting, is that this sun here, which is always, more or less always, depicted as being a very masculine energy and a very masculine driven, action orientated energy. The sun is this very feminine, very beautiful woman here, And it's kind of saying to me that within the masculine we have the feminine, and within the feminine we have the masculine. And that is kind of here as well, in the flamboyant look that he has here. And again, you know, the kind of wanting to be seen, the kind of wanting to be who you are, looking to find who you are, and being much more comfortable in some ways of accepting that that's okay, without it being kind of forced on us, or like pushed in our faces, and kind of, because there are agendas out there as well that are kind of trying to force this kind of issue. But this card here is a very gentle energy. It's a very gentle, romantic, kind of always reminds me of the knights in shining armour from kind of maybe, you know, the Arthurian legend time, and the knight who was always looking for a damsel to rescue and to fall in love with, and would rather honour her from afar than kind of damage her reputation. He, for me, kind of represents the fact that the energies that are in play during this year, well, during this month of January, with all the planets that we have in Capricorn, the Sun, Saturn, Pluto, Jupiter and Mercury, all going to be conjuncting each other, particularly at this time of this Greek conjunction. All those 5 planets have not been together in Capricorn since 1285, which is a kind of huge period of history. It's a time when we go back to kind of serfdom, and when we were really being kind of put into, I would say, bracketed, or, I mean, I know that had gone on before as well, but this kind of is very, you know, women behaved in certain ways. Women were not kind of seen as being allowed to be warriors. They weren't knights. They weren't, you know, women were the damsels that the men had to come and rescue, because they were always being put in situations that they couldn't get themselves out of, shall we say, and you needed a strong man in order to survive as a woman. And that's been the case for hundreds of years now, hundreds of years. But we have now, and have had for the last 100 years, a planet called, or not a planet, sorry, an asteroid called Eris, which is in the sign of Aries, which is also where Mars is going to be over the next, from about March onwards, I think, March, April. In his home sign. And we also have Chiron there as well. And Chiron, the asteroid Chiron, is all about the wounded healer. It's the wounded healer energy, which is kind of the Knight of Cups. And we also have the Page of Cups here as well, which is very Chiron energy. This is about self-nurturing and taking care of our own need for love. This is more about the self, looking after the self, taking care of the self. And this energy, again, is in February. So this is for the next month. But I feel that that energy is going to be coming up again. But this card here is more about, for me, it's more about recognizing that the masculine and the feminine do not have to be stereotypical, that you have the masculine within the feminine and the feminine within the masculine, and that we have to recognize that. That doesn't mean that we aren't those genders. It just means that our energies are both, and you can have very masculine females, you can have very feminine men. So it's just a case of like stopping the stories. I think, again, you know, the whole Victorian thing as well, which we're very much into these kind of Arthurian legends and this romance thing about, you know, women having to have a strong man in order to survive. And if you look back at period dramas and things, it was all about marrying your daughter off to somebody who would, you know, who would look after her, take care of her and her family, who could prosper through the line of her marriage, not through what she herself could accomplish. And I think that come July, there's going to be a lot more of this kind of recognition that we need to let go of these stereotypical stories that we have been around for centuries, and to allow us to just be whoever we are, whoever we feel most comfortable with, without, again, I would say, without trying to force it on anybody, because that's just going to cause people to feel more uncomfortable and want to rebel against it and just kind of upset the issue more than it will allow people to just accept that it's okay, that it's okay to recognize those energies within both genders. So that for me is what's happening in July. And also because, as I was saying, Eris, who is kind of the unwanted feminine, shall we say, she's the female kind of signified or symbolic of Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty, who was never invited to the party but turned up anyway. And the reason she wasn't invited to the party was because she was always trouble. And that is her kind of, Eris's kind of energy, is that kind of discarded feminine side that hasn't been allowed to be there within the feminine psyche. And so it's been buried, it's been kind of ignored, it's been pushed down, it's been denied. And so Eris is going to be squaring Pluto, which is her brother, and Pluto is the very masculine, also an asteroid or a brown dwarf, and they're going to be squaring off with each other for the whole of 2020. So you've got this very masculine driven kind of Pluto destructive, destroying energy of Pluto, and his sister, who's kind of the feminine equivalent, shall we say, who are also going to be in this square. Both of them are going to be trying to outdo the other in many ways. So it's going to be interesting over the next 12 months to see what will come of that. But I do think that this is going to play out even stronger on the world stage, and that we are going to see a lot more of this type of thing, this type of energy, this kind of real needing to be recognised. And the more outrageous in many ways, the more shocking, the more they can push the boundaries of it, the more they will. The more that's going to happen, just because it has to. It's almost like trying to balance out the energy that hasn't been allowed to be. And I think that Eris is playing a really huge part in all of that, trying to get the feminine energy to be recognised as being not just soft and only capable of certain stereotypical jobs and certain. I know things have changed, but there is still. And I think for women it's been a lot easier than it has been for boys and for men as well. And I put a lot of that down to the whole Victorian era thing as well, about, big boys don't cry, and you've got to be strong, you've got to stand up, you've got to kind of stiff upper lip and all that nonsense. So I think there's going to be a big changing coming up in July. But as we move into August, and as I did this reading, when I saw this card, my first thought was something's going to happen that's going to be like maybe a possible disaster in August, but it's going to involve water. This is Poseidon, also known as Neptune. And this kind of tower here represents a breakdown, a breakthrough. It's symbolic of everything that we have kind of created for ourselves individually, as well as globally, as well as collectively, as well as generational. So this is really kind of something that's going to have a really big effect, I feel, on the whole psyche of possibly of the world. It's going to be a big event that's going to kind of really rock. I just get the feeling it's going to really rock the world on some level. And one of the reasons I'm saying that is because it comes out with the 5 of Cups here, this energy. Here, the 5 of Cups, 5 of Water, is, if you look here, she's kind of looking very despairing. It kind of woes me, and she doesn't know what to do. And there's kind of like, you know, she's got her hand held out here, and it just looks to me like a really kind of like, yeah, despairing is probably the best word to use for this. A despairing energy of kind of, what now? What next? What do we do? How do we deal with this? How do we cope with this? How do we come out from this? And it is, again, it's a water element here. And water can also be to do with our emotions. It can be to do with our psyche. It can be to do with our intuition, the psychic realm. It's very much, you know, water holds memory. Water, we are made up of water more than we are made up of anything else. The human body is more water than anything else. But what I found really interesting, and one of the reasons why I used 3 decks, is because the same card came out again with the 5 of Cups here, and I find him also to be very despairing. He looks really like something has happened that is just, doesn't know how to cope with it, doesn't know how to deal with it, wasn't expecting it, because this, the Tower, is very out of the blue energy. It's something that just happens. It kind of just takes your breath away. It kind of just, and it always works through adversity. It is a waking card again. It is kind of another waking up, but it's more abrupt. This awakening is more kind of, I would say more kind of a subtle kind of illumination, a subtle kind of coming to a realization that we have for ourselves. We kind of find that realization within ourselves, whereas this card, it always comes from without. But interestingly, I always think this energy is about something that we kind of bring into our lives. It's kind of what we attract to us, because we need to break free from whatever this represents. And this can represent very kind of, at the moment, Capricornian energy, in the sense of it being very a breakdown of all the things that we kind of have become so used to, that we just think it's always going to be there. It's going to be, you know, our establishments, our corporations, our educational system, our banking system, all of the things that we now have had put in place for so long. And I think even, you know, if you go back to the 1200s, banking again, like, was beginning of banking was probably around that same time, Middle East, Knights Templar. And it's interesting what's happening in the Middle East at the moment as well. It's a very kind of like Richard the Lionheart in the 1200s was going out to the Middle East. It was very much about the Muslims and the Christians, and it's still going on today. It hasn't ended. But the planets, the last time all those 5 planets that I mentioned earlier were together in the sign of Capricorn was in 1285. So it's almost like that's when it was put in place. That was when everything was put into a kind of written in stone, if you like, kind of event. And this is kind of the closing of that cycle. This is kind of the ending of that cycle. It's kind of like that's the history that we're moving past and beyond and through and allowing something else in. But this particular time in August, I just think is going to be really overwhelming. It's going to be overwhelming. There's going to be a lot, there's going to be, there's going to be a lot of emotion. I definitely get a feeling of a lot of emotion. There is so much water in these 3 cards, because this is water as well. That it's just going to be very, very very sudden, very abrupt, very unexpected, very out of the blue, and it's just going to cause a lot of anguish, sorrow, despair. That's the kind of feeling that I'm getting from these 3 cards here in August. So as we leave August behind and move through into September, we have a High Priestess again. We had the High Priestess, or we have the High Priestess coming up in February. And in this card, it's very much for me about her going down into the underworld. This is about her going down into the world that is ruled by Pluto, also known as Hades, the lord of the underworld. Because this is Persephone. She was stolen by Hades, or Pluto, and taken down into the depths of the underworld. And these 2 columns here, for me, kind of represent what's going on with these kind of planets conjuncting, coming together. I know it's in February, but I still feel that there's a lot of things that are going to be happening even after that conjunction. It's not just going to be over and done with. Although the planets only meet up once, I do think it's not just like one day and then that's it, it's over. It's like they meet, and because they're slow moving planets, they will stay conjuncted for quite a while over a period of time. So that energy is going to be, as I've said in the previous video, it's a long time coming and it's a long time lasting. And for me in this card, she's very innocent. She's kind of in a beautiful flowing white dress which represents purity, like a wedding dress. It's supposed to represent purity, virginity. And she's very, very innocent. There's a real innocence about this beautiful card. It's Persephone here. And what I think it's saying here is that, because this is always about that the High Priestess is about our intuition, our inner realm, our inner world, the things that we kind of maybe don't even recognize within ourselves, or we kind of gloss over and try to kind of keep hidden, keep secret, keep unrevealed. But when we come round to September, particularly after what's gone down in August, I get the feeling that if this is kind of suddenly everything is being revealed. Because if you look here, she's in this completely kind of see-through, diaphanous, as it's called, kind of gown, revealing just about everything that she has to reveal. And she's also in the same kind of shape as this crescent moon as well, which I find really interesting. So I also think that this is to do with well, it's to do with emotions, because the moon is about emotions, but the moon is also about revealing things as well, and the moon works in cycles. So this is about cycles, this is about timing, this is about things coming to light coming to light, shall we say, in the right time, in the right place. But the message here for me as well is also kind of saying, what is it that you have learnt here about yourselves? What are you no longer able to conceal about yourselves? Because this is about kind of revealing, though it's not up that way. If it was up the right way, I would say that we were revealing ourselves. Again, this is February and goes along with this card here. But in this card, I think what she's saying is that, you know, what we have here, we're getting ready to reveal what we are learning about ourselves. Because again, the Page of Air appears here as well, Page of Swords, questioning, seeking answers, on a quest for kind of inner knowledge. Page is a young energy, always kind of an energy of just starting something, just kind of beginning to take the steps towards something. So that's what this card is saying to me here. And that's what these two High Priestesses are saying for me here. It's almost like the cycle. The cycle has kind of come round from February round to September. And it's saying, what is it, after everything that we've been through in that period of time, what did we learn that we need to kind of reveal, not only to ourselves, but also to the world? Because I do feel somehow that this is going to be a time of coming together as well, after what takes place previously in the previous month. Because we also have the Queen of Swords with this energy as well, and this is very much about truth. This is very much about kind of using that sword here, the sword that the Page of Swords has pointing down, because he's not ready. He's not ready, he's not mature enough to use this sword wisely, whereas the Queen of Swords has kind of come into her own, and she can use this sword with laser precision to cut through all the BS and to see things a lot clearer. And she's very much about the logic, very much about logic. It's about, like, I feel that this card is going to be, the previous month is going to be very emotional for us in August. And by the time we get into September, we're going to need to be able to be a lot more impartial, a lot more maybe disconnected from our emotions for a while, and to actually kind of speak the truth, but from a heart and a head. So a throat, it's like, it always represents to me the turquoise colour, the blue of the throat chakra and the green of the heart chakra kind of coming together. So it's an outpouring of kind of truth being spoken here. Because Swords is very much air energy, which is mental energy. It's kind of Mercury ruled energy. And so it is about conversations, it's about communication. It's also possibly got something to do with the media as well, because Neptune, or Poseidon, Neptune, is ruler of the media as well. So I do think that the media is going to be put in the spotlight, and you know, we're going to be seeking the truth. We're going to want the truth. We're going to want to know the secrets that have been kept hidden from us. The things that we've been lied to about. And the reason I say that is because the Seven of Air has come out here as well, the Seven of Wands. And the Seven of Wands comes out in June as well. We have that energy. And here it's all about kind of standing your ground and kind of facing up to others, facing up to maybe other people's points of view, other people's beliefs, other people's way of doing things, and us kind of standing our own ground and not allowing other people to put us down or deny our own creativity or our own needs, desires. But that's the Seven of Wands there. I don't know why I picked that card up, because actually that's not the card I was looking for. But sorry, the Seven of Air for me is all about lies and deceit. Usually in the tarot deck, it's usually depicted as somebody kind of picking up the swords and kind of walking away with them. It kind of depicts somebody who's holding things close to their chest, maybe not being honest, not giving out the full story, which is what we're going to be kind of demanding, the full story, the truth, honesty. But also in this card, I kind of like, she's wearing this mask and she's kind of even got like this beak on her nose. So it's almost like she's trying to kind of convince these birds here that she actually is one of them, that she is a bird, that, you know, she's trying to fit in. She's trying to make herself be something that she isn't. But also, I feel that this is also about stories. This is also about fairy stories. I get the feeling of fairy stories from this, of her, all these geese and birds kind of gathered around her, and she's kind of telling them a story which is kind of all illusion and delusional, and, you know, they're kind of buying into it because they want to be in her gang, so to speak. That they look up to her because she's bigger and more important, and she has more I don't know, maybe more connections. I don't know, I'm kind of just getting this feeling of a story, a storyteller, and that, you know, we're kind of fed up with stories being told, and the stories that we are being told are not true. They're not the truth. They're not real. They're stories that we've been told for hundreds of years now, that have kind of deceived us, made us think one way when actually things are very different. Things are a totally different way to how we've been led to believe they are. And so this is the energy that I get in September, is there is going to be a need for more to be revealed, and a lot more need for us to be honest with ourselves, honest with each other, individually, within a family, generationally, stories that we've told each other that aren't true. And again, that can be generationally, that can be within families, but that can also be to do collectively, globally, being led to believe one thing when it's actually a completely different way. And so there's kind of deception, lies and deception that are going to be kind of brought to the forefront, I feel, and kind of people are really going to see things for the way they are, and I feel that some people are kind of going to not want to actually see that at all, and I'll explain why in a bit with the next cards that are coming out. But I kind of get that feeling that some people are just going to want to carry on seeing the illusion and just being stuck in the same stories. They're not going to want to see past the mask and the pretense of it all. So as we move into October, we have the Wheel of Fortune. And if you look closely at this card, this Wheel of Fortune's got this little face here, this little human face. And also there's like a sun in the background as well. But for me, the sun kind of represents a different type of energy. This whole wheel for me represents kind of wheels within wheels within wheels, kind of like cogs within a giant mechanism. And we are a cog within a giant mechanism. It's just that we've kind of lost the realization of that giant mechanism, shall we say, because that giant mechanism for me is kind of this card which comes out in January. This is our January card, which you can find in my original video that I did. I don't want to keep pushing it, but that's where it is. So this here, if you look here at this thread, for me this thread is saying that we are connected to everything, and everything is connected to us. There is no separation, there is no kind of there is no no separation. It's like everything is, it's like, to me, kind of represents like an umbilical cord, like it's energy that's coming in from a higher energy, from our higher selves, from the divine energy source, from quantum energy, the quantum energy field, but everything is contained within it, including us. And for me, this card is kind of a representation of that. It also speaks to me of the precession of the ages as well, or the precession of the equinoxes, how everything moves around everything else, and how our equinox is kind of, it's on a wobble. And I think it moves every like 72 degrees every so many years. I can't remember off the top of my head exactly how many years it takes. I might do a video on that as well at some point. But 72 degrees, I think maybe 72 degrees every year or something. Maybe not. Maybe that's too many. Anyway, it kind of, it's always shifting. Basically, it's always shifting. It's not static. It doesn't stay still as we've been led to believe. Again, that's another story. And we are always shifting, and we are shifting from one part of our universe into another part of our universe. Our whole galaxy is moving and shifting, and the energies that are coming in are shifting and moving as well, which is why everything is changing for us at the moment. I like to see it a bit like a spiral, where we just keep spiraling up. And particularly kind of with the connection here, I see this as kind of a connection to the galactic center, which is where this heart is kind of representing the universe for me, and everything beyond that. But it's kind of where we are connected at the galactic center. Our little universe is joined. I think it's about 27, the point of 27 degrees Sagittarius is where we are connected to everything else, which I also speak about in some of my other videos that I've done as well. But this kind of speaks to me also about other dimensions, dimensions within dimensions, moving out of this dimension and into another dimension. It also looks to me like a bookmark, like time. Like it's bookmarking something, like there's something that's been bookmarked, if you like, or something that's already, the wheels are already set in motion, and there's nothing that we can do that's going to change it. It's going to happen. And we are just a part of the energy that is playing out. It's going to happen. So it's almost like, a bookmark in time. Something is kind of coming in that is bigger than anything anybody here. Nothing can stop it from happening. And I get the feeling also that there could be something to do with this as well, deception and lies, that there could be in 2020, there could be more information coming out about other off-world, like other entities, like disclosure, I suppose is probably the best word to use, that there will be more disclosure coming out, but disclosure that is going to kind of like lift the lid off of things, and it's not going to be able to, the lid's not going to be able to be put back on. And the card that came out with this for me, the Four Cups, I find really interesting, as well as it being again emotional water energy. I also feel here that this cup coming out of the clouds with this hand here is almost like it's coming out from the center here, and it's kind of offering us a new idea, a new vision, a new dream, a new way of being. And some people are just not going to want to see it. Some people are just going to want to stay asleep because they're not ready to have their world turned in a different direction. They're not ready to move away from the lies and the deception. They're so kind of caught up in it that they want to carry on living this story. They don't want things to change. They don't want anything to upset their, for them, equilibrium and balanced understanding. But I feel that for those people who are awake already, and for those who are on the verge of waking up, this cup is going to be delivered to us in the sense of, like I said, I get the feeling that it's to do with this understanding and this knowledge, that this cup is about knowledge and understanding this time. It's not so much about our emotional love and receiving love, although it will also be about love, because it will be about us understanding our own story, our own history, and the love of the greater energy, if you like, the divine energy. And these three cups here, standing here, are also very interesting, because the three cups often represent a celebration. And the fourth cup here is coming in. And we are in the year 4 as well, 2020, 2 and 2 being 4. So again, I find that quite interesting. Numbers I find quite symbolic, have a symbolic meaning. And then we have this card here, which kind of again represents that energy of kind of not wanting to go beyond where we have been so far. But this is a completion card. The Ten of Wands is kind of saying that you can move away from this old story, the old oppressive stories, the old history, the old way of doing things. You don't have to continue down that path anymore, although you may find it difficult to do so, because you will have to wake up and you will have to kind of take responsibility for your own growth, spiritual growth. But again, I get the feeling that a lot of people are just going to want to stay in this energy. A lot of people in October, October are going to be thinking, I just want to stay here. And there is going to be a major event in October as well. I do believe it's a new moon. Yeah, it's a new moon because the moon and the sun are both going to be in Libra, which is going to be opposing Mars in Aries, I think it is, on the 16th of October. And that's going to be quite a volatile energy as well. So there could be a lot of rising up happening across the planet as well. I mean, there already is a lot of rising up as well, but this could be more. And I think, again, that kind of shows up later as well. So this energy could, like, because moon energy happens, but it doesn't just happen and then kind of that's it. It lasts. It lasts right through until either the next full moon, or if it's a full moon, it lasts right through to the next new moon, and that can even last beyond that as well, depending. But when you have energies like solar eclipses that are involved, or lunar eclipses that are involved, the energy will last right through for about 6 months as well. So they're really very powerful events. So I just feel that, kind of, for me, the boat always represents life as well. That's how I see it. And it's kind of, you know, this is old, it's worn out, it's seen better days, it's had its time, it's needing repaired, but it also needs to be kind of maybe transformed into something else, maybe, you know, kind of taken apart and made into something completely new, which is what this card has the ability to do as well, because it is creative energy. And in this card, he's kind of been on his journey of what he set out to do. He's achieved it, and there's absolutely no reason why he should be feeling like this, but he is feeling like this because he can see no further. He's become stuck in his past story. He does not want to move beyond that because he can't see anything better than what he's already done. So he would rather stay in that energy than move into something new that's coming in. So that's the energies that I feel happening in October. And in November, we start off with the Strength card, which I feel is kind of a follow-on from what's been happening here. Now, this energy is saying that we're going to have to find some inner strength here. We're going to have to grow up. This is about mastery. This is about mastering ourselves, becoming masters of ourselves, of our inner emotions. Because it's inside this cave, it's always, when I see a cave, I always see it as being symbolic and reflective of what goes on within rather than outside of ourselves. So this is kind of saying that, you know, on an inner level, we all need to, and Capricorn energy is very much about mastery as well. Saturn being the teacher. Time, Lord of Karma. So it's kind of saying, for me, it's time to grow up. It's time to grow up. In this particular card, Heracles here is having to tame this beast, and the beast is representative of what goes on within us, of kind of the way that we respond or we react to something. And we always react or respond by how we feel about our emotions. So this is kind of representing for me the masculine kind of driven kind of aggressive, more kind of reactive energies. But, and if you see here, he's tried to kill this lion. He has to kill the lion. He's been told to kill the lion. It's one of the things that in Greek mythology, the trials of Heracles, and this was one of them. He had to kill this beast here, but he couldn't do it with like his sword. You see there, the sword has become completely bent, and arrows won't penetrate it, and anything that he tries, he can't do. So symbolically, he has to strangle it. It's the only way that he can actually kill this beast. So it's almost like kind of bringing our own temperament and our own inner nature under control. That's what this card says for me. It's about bringing our own inner nature under control on a collective level as well, because there could be things that are going to happen this year where we are going to want to react, shall we say, from a kind of upset, angry, disappointed, point of view, emotional, just sudden kind of knee-jerk reaction, and we're going to kind of need to call ourselves off and kind of master our inner anger, our inner action. And interestingly, once he actually does kill this beast, he then wears this skin as an outer coat, and basically like nothing can penetrate it, nothing, like all the, like it still contains the magic within it, because that's what the skin is. It's a magical beast. And it's kind of saying that, you know, once we master that side of ourselves, we're no longer afflicted by the, you know, the sticks and the stones, shall we say. Sticks and stones, you know, will break my bones, that kind of thing. It's like, you know, words, and we're not so easily offended by things. We're not so easily jumping to conclusions about things. We no longer feel the need to defend our own beliefs or our own conditioning in many ways, because a lot of our beliefs are also our conditioning, things that we've been told are the way that they are, again, the stories. But once he's kind of wearing this skin, it's a bit like water off a duck's back. So it's like we mature to the point where we're no longer, you know, we overcome that childlike need to retaliate. And I think that could be quite important this year as well. And the energy, or the card that came out with this, is the Three of Water, or Three of Cups, which kind of reflects with this here as well. I see the Three of Cups down here, which often means a celebration in most tarot decks, but in this tarot deck I see this more as a kind of a time when we have to make a decision about whether or not we are going to go down a certain path with something. Are we going to put our time, our energy and our effort into something? And it could be to do with, you know, are we going to continue allowing ourselves to be irritated? Because that's what pearls represent to me. They kind of represent this irritation. Oysters are irritated by a grain of sand, so they create these incredibly beautiful gems that, you know, people will dive to the bottom of the ocean to retrieve these, because they're so beautiful and they're worth so much value. But really they just start out as a tiny grain of sand, which gets transformed So it's kind of saying to me that there is this, again, transformation. There's transformation happening within here, and there can be transformation happening here. So it can also be saying that is this something that you want to take on board, because here it looks to me like she's kind of overwhelmed by this. It kind of seems like she's not really sure if she wants to be carrying this. How much more can she carry, kind of thing. And also that with this hand here, I feel as though she's not quite made up her mind here whether she's going to accept this or whether she's going to push it away. Do I want this? Do I not want this? And this kind of represents to me a balance of within a relationship, because the water, the cups, is nearly always about a relationship, but it can also be to do with psyche and kind of transformation. And I feel that that's what this card is saying here, that this is more to do with transformation than it is to do with relationships. And also, yeah, just this general feeling of how much more can we take on board here. How much more do I need to take on board? And the card that came out with this card is the Five of Wands. And the Five of Wands here is kind of all these different characters that are all fighting with each other. They've all got their wands at the ready and they're all kind of attacking each other. I often see the Five of Wands as being, again, much more about the individual rather than other people. I see the Seven as being more about the need to defend yourself from others, or stand your ground on your beliefs and you know what you have come to want to defend within yourself. And this is for me much more about kind of the battle within, again the battle within, the kind of not taming so much, but the kind of facing up to your inner monsters, your kind of, you know, the monster under the bed that as a child always seemed bigger than it actually was. And when you actually face up to something, you actually, you know, become aware of the fact that a lot of it was actually more to do with your creative imagination, in that sense, that it wasn't as fearful as you thought it was, or as we thought it was as a collective. It wasn't as fearful or worrisome. This is kind of inner doubts, doubting yourself, not thinking that you have the ability to do it, the courage to do it. Because this Five comes before the Six, and the Six of Wands is always a card of victory. So it's kind of having to go through something in order to get to the victory. But I think symbolically it's much more about what goes on within ourselves. Do we have the kind of not just courageousness, but do we have the capability, the ability, the what's the word I'm looking for? There's a certain word and I can't quite find it in my head at the moment. It may come back, it may not, but that's kind of the energy that I'm talking about in general. And I feel as though it's got a lot to do with transformation for us in this last but 1 month in November, and possibly also to do with what's gone on previously in October, kind of really highlighting here. And as we move into December, we are being faced with the devil, which is kind of Capricorn energy. Capricorn also kind of being the last month, the Sagittarius month, not the Sagittarius month, sorry, the December, month of December is kind of ruled more by Capricorn than it is by Sagittarius, which starts, Sagittarius is more November into December. So this energy here for me is about releasing. And interestingly, on New Year's Eve, when I was originally shuffling and laying out the cards, a whole load of cards fell on the floor, and this card was the only card that was up the right way. And I looked at it and I thought, no, that's not the that's just kind of, you know, a coincidence. There's too many cards there, and that one just happens to be up the right way, but I'm not going to take it. So I put it back in and I carried on shuffling, and it jumped out again. So it was like, okay, that's the card that we need. And for me, what it's saying is that this is, as we get to the end of 2020 and as we get to end of the Capricorn energy, because the Capricorn energy is going to be in play right throughout this year. Saturn doesn't leave Capricorn until end of 2020, beginning of 21. So those energies are still very, very strong throughout this whole year, with all the conjunctions that are happening with Mars and all those planets, and particularly Jupiter, Saturn and Pluto, and also the squares that it's going to be making as well with Mars and Jupiter and Saturn and Pluto. So big energies at play throughout the whole of this year. And by the time we get to December, I feel as though we've got to the point where we just kind of need to release all of the stuff, all of the fears, all of the things that we've kind of accumulated over this year. We're really having to look at where we've come, how far we've come, and kind of also, because it came out with this Eight of Pentacles as well, which I feel is a form of mastery as well. It's kind of saying, like, you know, release the old here, release it, let it go. I think that's kind of what this fire is as well, is kind of like, you know, this energy of being able to let go of the old and what you no longer need, not to let it hold you back anymore, not to let it keep you in its thrall anymore, not to be not to let it have power over you, for you to have more control and power over it and yourself, because that's kind of the strength and the mastery card here as well. Mastery over ourselves. And here in the Eight of Pentacles, it's very much about kind of working through, but kind of coming back to the table again with something new, but also something that has aspects of everything that we've learned. For me, these kind of coins down here that he's no longer wanting or needing, he's kind of got it all contained within here as well. And also it kind of reminds me of this kind of energy as well, of being at the table and having all the tools that you need, and kind of bringing it all into the physical realm, which is what this pentacle says here for me. And this is in March. The Magician kicks in March. Again, you'll find that in my first video. But this is kind of, for me, saying that, you know, it has been difficult, it has been hard, there has been times where we've kind of been very fearful and very kind of trapped maybe as well by what's happened and what's happening and what we don't want to let go of. And, you know, it's a bit like that, you know, that expression, better the devil you know than the devil that you don't. But is that necessarily true? Does the devil you know just keep us stuck in that place because we're too fearful to move past it and beyond it? Which again is this 10 of Wands energy here as well. Do we want to stay here in this energy? Because this is an ending. Tens are endings. So the 8 to me is saying that we can build something new. We can move into the next year and create something different, but not to forget what we've been through, not to forget our history, not to kind of burn our bridges completely. That there will be aspects, a bit like sifting through and finding the gold in some ways. Sifting through and finding the gold, and taking that kind of, you know, metaphysical gold with us, if you like, you know, the gold of what we've learnt, our experiences. That's what these represent. They represent the gold of our experiences, which we can create something new with. And the very last card that I have here is this beautiful 7 of Fire, and that card again was the one that I was talking about earlier, which I confused with the 7 of Air for some bizarre reason. But this is this card here. So it is about standing up for what you believe and standing up for our rights and kind of being very much on the precipice. And we have also the Fool, which turns up in May. And the Fool is kind of, whoops, not upside down. It's up the right way. But I get the feeling that these are very similar type of cards. It's kind of leaping into the unknown. So from May through to the new year that's coming in, it's kind of leaping out of the 2020s from May into 2021. And also reminds me of this card here, where here she's kind of transforming, and I get the feeling there's going to be a lot of transforming this year. If there is anything, if there's one word that I would say that is going to very strongly sum up this year, it's going to be transformation and transforming the old into something new. And that's kind of what she's doing here. And I feel that these little fireflies here are kind of helping us through, helping us light our way. It's kind of, we are creating these to take with us, to take through with us. And maybe they are representations of our experiences as well. But the unicorn that is represented here is a mythical beast of kind of mystery and magical and something that's completely what's the word, free-spirited, very similar to a horse, I suppose, but the unicorn here being one as well, uni being one, also for me represents kind of its connection with the universe, uni, and verse being one song, so it's also about kind of representing the one. and how the one song of the universe kind of makes up all the other songs, and we are all each individual songs. And the unicorn kind of represents that for me. It represents this kind of leap into the 2021s and this whole new experience. And also Saturn and Jupiter are going to meet up finally in 2021, beginning of 2021 I believe it is, at 0 degrees Aquarius, which kind of represents a real new beginning, a real new start. And there's also something, I can't remember what it is, so I'm just going to quickly look at my notes here, because I'm sure there's something happening on the 21st as well. It doesn't seem to be there. No, can't find it. On the 21st of December, there's also something happening, but I can't. Oh yeah, on the solstice. Oh, that is when it happens. Sorry, on the 21st of December is when Saturn and Jupiter finally meet up at 0 degrees Aquarius, which kind of is a very new beginning. It's a new start. It's a new. So that's quite interesting that was kind of, it must have been in my head. I must have kind of known it somehow, but just didn't connect it with the 21st. But I knew it was happening. So there is this new beginning. For me, this is what this represents. December, new beginning. It's the very last card. And it's kind of, I just feel that it's going to be very kind of illuminatory, as in it's going to kind of really bring out something that has yet to have been discovered from within ourselves. And that is where I'm going to leave this reading. I am just going to say thank you very much for watching, and for all of you who have subscribed, thank you for subscribing. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do, because I am trying to grow my channel in 2020. I would really like to get my messages out there, because I think they're slightly different to what most tarot readers are putting out there. I am going to try and get all of the 2020 readings done over the next 3 weeks. I think I might have said that earlier, I might not have done. Also, so they will be done in a clock form as well, but with 2 cards rather than 3, so it shouldn't take quite so long to do them. Also, again, please like my videos, tap the bell so that you can receive future videos. There will be a link for the natal charts if you're interested in finding out more about that, and also my email is down there as well if anybody would like to get an individual private reading, because this reading is particularly, it's more about the collective and global overall energies for the year that is coming up in 2020. So again, thank you very much. I wish you all the best and hope to see you back soon. Take care.